the cadence that we usually go through on these classes is we'll start by just introducing meditation for anyone who is brand new, right? We have a lot of new people every week. That's awesome. So we're going to start by just introducing meditation 101, so to speak, right? What is it? How do we do it? Why does it work? Why even be bothered? And then we're going to do a short breathing meditation. This is short, right? It's no more than 5 minutes. You do not need to meditate for hours to see benefits from it. So we're just going to start really simple. And then we're going to get into a specific topic. Each week we look at a different topic. There's a lot we can do with meditation. And today's topic is probably one of the most common reasons people even seek out meditation, and that's anxiety. And just on a personal level, that's why I got into meditation back over 15 years ago, is to try to manage some pretty crippling anxiety. Right? So we're going to talk about what is anxiety, what's our mind doing when it's getting anxious. We're going to kind of maybe dive a little deeper than we thought we could. And then we're going to look at some techniques to help with anxious thoughts and anxious mind. Cool. Daphne, welcome back. How you doing? Gail, hello. Okay, so if you're new, please ask questions. That is the benefit of live stream format, right? Can't ask questions to a pre-made video. I'm not a pre-made video. I'm live. I can go like this. So ask me questions if you have any. You can just type them right in the chat. That's the best way to get them answered. I'll stop what I'm doing and answer them to the best of my ability. If you do not want to use the chat feature, or you think about something after the class ends, no big deal. I'm going to give you my email, and you can just email me anything that comes up. Cool. All right. So we're going to get started by thinking about meditation at its most basic level. What is it? Good question, right? Can I prove I'm not a robot? I'm not a Cylon. That's Battlestar Galactica humor. So when we think about meditation, almost instantly our mind goes to relaxing, right? De-stressing. Anxiety's in there, right? So we're going to talk a lot about that today. But this idea of relaxing, right? Sounds good. Even just saying it out loud, like, yeah, that sounds good. Let's do that. So that is a good description of meditation. But how does meditation relax you? So this is something that I think is really important to understand. It's something that sometimes is lost in certain presentations of meditation. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. What's going on there? Why is meditation a good way of relaxing, right? So meditation is not creating peacefulness or like creating relaxation. What it's doing is teaching you to become familiar with relaxed you. You have a very calm, cool, collected, relaxed version of yourself. I don't even, some of you I probably meeting for the first time. I know it's in there, right? It's in there. It doesn't always come out, especially when we want it to. And that's kind of what we're after. But meditation is teaching you to get in touch with something you already have. This is very important. We don't have to go out and get it. You have everything you need to learn how to use this technique to relax. And that's what it is. It is a technique of what I'll call familiarizing your mind with something. It's very, very academic definition. Familiarizing your mind with something, right? Now that might sound a little strange, but if we think about something that you're really familiar with, like a physical activity, I don't know. I was gonna use riding a bike, but not everybody rides bikes. Let's do walking. Okay, so at this stage in your life, you're probably pretty good at walking. Maybe you're getting older and just some pains now while you're doing it. But the mechanics of walking, you got it, right? You got it at this point. You could say that walking comes pretty naturally to you. You don't have to think about how do I walk every time you walk. You just do it, right? Now, that was not always true. When you were a kid, you did not walk at all. And then when you started walking, it didn't look that great. You're wobbling all over the place and stumbling and stuff, right? So what happened in between walking being very difficult and walking being like very natural, coming naturally to you? It's just practice, right? It's just practice. Familiarity, really, right? Your body, your mind, everything about you is super familiar with the mechanics of walking. And as a result, you can walk without thinking about walking. It comes naturally to you. That is the benefit of familiarity, right? And the same is true with your mind. Feelings, emotions, things that we talk about and focus on with regards to meditation, it's the exact same thing. So in terms of using meditation to relax, what's happening is you are going to start to train your mind to become so familiar with relaxing that relaxing starts to show up as easily as walking, right? It is just learning, right? It's just a learning technique. And you can become familiar with anything you want. Right now, familiarity is a big part of our lives, for good and bad. All right, and we're going to talk about anxiety today, and we're going to see that, right? So I'll save the anxiety stuff for today. But if you think about something like anger, really easy to get angry. We don't have to try to get angry. Something happens, and we're angry. That's it. We don't have to pause and be like, "Hey, I'd like to just take a moment and get angry." No. Now, being patient, yeah, we do have to take a moment sometimes and try. It requires more effort. This is not because we're some angry person. We've just kind of let our mind practice getting annoyed more than we have let it practice getting patient. Right? So meditation is not just about relaxing, but it's about choice. It's about taking back ownership of your thoughts and beginning to choose what you want to focus on now. All right. Right now, our mind kind of chooses. Our mind is like, "Hey, worry about work." We're like, "No, it's relaxing time." And your mind's like, "No, we're worried about that project." We're not in control all the time, right? So this meditation ultimately is a way of gaining choice, gaining ownership of what you want to be focused on, what you want to be thinking about, what you want to be familiar with. And there's limitless things that you can do with that, right? I'm addicted to the relaxing feelings I get when I meditate a few times a day. So this is great. Yeah. So, as you start meditating, you start to notice, "Hey man, this feels pretty good." That's great, right? So now you're training your mind to kind of want to go there. Now, at first, your mind might be like, "What the heck are you doing? We don't do this. We don't meditate. We've never done this before. I don't know what you're doing." Right? There might be some resistance. But over time, like you're experiencing, it'll start to, your mind almost kind of craves it, right? Cool. Very good. Thank you. All right. So that's all well and good, right? Familiarity, meditation, those two words are pretty synonymous. Great. But first thing we learn with meditation is how to, what I would call, pacify your mind. Right? So all day long, our mind is very busy. Right? It's jumping from thing to thing. Worry about this, think about that. Oh, that thing happened 3 years ago, but I'm still thinking about it. Oh, I got a project coming up. Like, our mind is constantly being pulled, right? This way or that. Right? It's very busy. Right? And so it's very cluttered up there. And what happens is when it's cluttered, it's hard to find that peaceful version of ourselves. It's sort of like a messy room. When your like house is a mess, and then you clean it. You're like, hey, there's my socks. I don't know. Hey, there's my socks. I thought they were lost. Right? They were there the whole time. You just couldn't see them because of the clutter. Right? So your mind's the same way. Your mind naturally very peaceful, very calm, very cool, collected, but all of the busyness in our mind, it's kind of obscuring that peacefulness like a mess. So we're going to clean a little bit. We're going to do a little spring cleaning in our own mind. And the way we're going to do that is with breathing meditation, or if you want to get real formal about it, it's called single pointed concentration. SPC. I just made that up. No one abbreviates it like that. So single pointed concentration, what do you think that means? Focusing on one thing, right? It's not multitasking, essentially. Now, if you had to take a guess as to what you personally are more familiar with, multitasking or focusing on one thing only, what do you think you would say? I got spoilers. It's multitasking. We're all experts at multitasking because we do it all day long. Even when we think we're not, we often are, right? And so what we're going to be doing here is purposefully not multitasking. We are going to choose to focus so exclusively on our breath that all the other things that are normally pulling for our attention, there's no room for them anymore. They're going to fade away a little bit into the background. It's not exactly the same as being in the zone, but it's a pretty good comparison. If you're working on something at work, you lose track of time, right? Forget to eat lunch. Someone calls your name, you don't hear it, right? All these things that are there, it's sort of like they fade a little bit. So we're going to practice being able to do that on purpose using our breath, right? And why do we start using our breath? Why is breathing meditation one of the most common entry points into meditation? Your breath's always with you, right? This is really important. Again, you don't need perfect conditions to meditate. You don't need to go retreat to that lake by your house that you love. You don't need to leave your friends behind for 3 months or whatever people think you got to do. You just need a little bit of time and your breath, and you can learn how to relax, tap into your relaxed self. Sound good? Okay. So we're going to do that now. We're going to do a little breathing meditation, and it's going to be short. Do not worry. You do not need to meditate for hours on end to see results. The most important thing is consistency. And so we are going to start with probably like a 5-minute breathing meditation. Maybe that's too long for you. And you're like, man, that was tough. I don't know if I could do 5 minutes. Cool. All right. How about 2 minutes? Maybe 1 minute. Doesn't matter. Consistency is the most important thing. But we're gonna try for about 5 minutes. And from an instructional standpoint, pretty straightforward. I'm gonna guide us through this. You're just gonna sit there nice and relaxed in your chair or cushion or whatever you want to be on. And we're gonna close our eyes. We're gonna focus on our breath. And then whenever you notice your attention drifting, maybe your mind's like, hey, think about that thing you got to do later. We're gonna be like, hey, you know what? Not right now. Be like, we'll get to that later. But right now I'm focusing on my breath. And we're going to bring our attention back to breathing. That's it. Choosing to focus on our breath, noticing when our attention drifts, bringing your attention back to breathing. That's it. That's meditation. Cool? Gail, thank you. I appreciate that. Meditation it's complex in a way, but it doesn't have to be presented that way. So it's just thinking. We're just thinking. Okay, cool. So get comfy. You're in your favorite chair, maybe. This is a good. Yeah, a lot of people think you gotta sit on the floor or something. No, you ain't gotta do that. Sit wherever you want. If you're in your chair, cool. As long as you're comfortable, that's good. Maybe you want to lay down. You had a long day. Go for it. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't know. You can do whatever you want. You want to stand up? It doesn't matter. It does not matter. As long as you're relatively comfortable, you're good to go. Okay, and you can go ahead and close your eyes, and I'm going to guide us through about a 5-minute breathing meditation just to kind of get everybody familiar with how you meditate. Okay. Whenever we start a meditation, first things first, just take a moment and check in with yourself. Ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? In this exact moment. Happy, sad, tired, energetic. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. We're not doing anything about it. We're just noticing. This is an exercise in mindfulness, something we'll talk about a lot today. Mindfulness is an active awareness of your thoughts so that you can respond skillfully to those thoughts. So just settle in and take note of how you're feeling in this moment. And having done that, you can now turn your full attention to your breath. Breathing in and out, gently and naturally. You do not need to take big, deep breaths or forcefully exhale. Just breathe as you normally would, in and out. And allow yourself to relax a little bit into your chair or cushion. Single-pointedly focused on each moment of each breath. Following the air as it enters your nose, sits, and then following that air as it exits. Completely present with each moment of your breath. At some point, you may notice your attention drifting. Maybe your mind is trying to make you think about something that happened earlier today. Or maybe something that you have to do later, after this class ends. Whenever you notice that this has happened, we can just say, not right now, to those thoughts. We'll get to them later. And then purposefully guide your attention back to breathing. You are in control of your thoughts. And right now, you're focusing on breathing in and out, gently and naturally. Fully present. Just enjoying being here, breathing. Staying with your breath for every single moment. This moment. This moment. This moment. Keep bringing your attention back to your breath whenever you notice that it has drifted a bit. This process of choosing to focus single-pointedly on your breath, noticing when your attention drifts, and being able to bring your attention back to breathing. That is meditation. You are meditating right now. You are a meditator. You are training your mind to relax, to be calm, to access its natural peaceful state. You are training your mind to focus on what you want to focus on. And right now, that's breathing in and out, gently and naturally. So just for the next couple of moments, continue to breathe in and out. And just enjoy sitting here. You have nothing else to do, nowhere else to be, just here, sitting, breathing, relaxing. Okay, when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Hello, how we doing? Everyone's still awake? How'd that go? That's a pretty straightforward, traditional breathing meditation, and nothing too fancy about it. And it only was about 5 minutes. Nisha, you sleepy? It's very natural. A lot of people get sleepy when they start to meditate. Why? Right? Well, your mind is super busy, right? Your mind is basically doing a million mental errands all day long. And then so when you give it the opportunity to kind of relax a little bit, your mind's like, oh yeah, starts to go to sleep. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? If you find that you're getting sleepy often, because meditation is kind of an active thing, we're training our mind. If you find that you're always getting sleepy, one thing that was advice that was given to me a long, long time ago, and now I'm passing it on to you, is check your posture. I have very bad posture. I'm always slouched. And you'll notice when you get sleepy, sometimes you slouch over, right? So you can kind of check your posture, just sit upright a little bit more. Sometimes that helps me whenever I'm getting sleepy. All right, it sounds like people are feeling good. That's good. It's exactly what we want. If you struggled with that, do not worry about that at all. It is very common. Basically, what's happening here is you're trying something new. And anytime you try something new, it's not always easy at first, right? Just like the example of walking, right? So your mind right now is like, I don't know what you think that was, but we do not do single pointed concentration ever. I like thinking about a million things at once. And so we just have to do a little practice, get our mind used to it, normalize this a little bit. Cool. Carmelina, when I first started, I used to go to sleep all the time, and I tried meditating, and I got past it. Yeah. You will get past it, and if it is something that's common, you can experiment with meditating at different times a day. Not a morning person over here. Get very sleepy when I do it in the morning. Okay. Gail, it's amazing what 5 minutes can do. Feel so kind, much more relaxed and peaceful. That's awesome. Yeah. So and that's a really beautiful realization, right? For a couple of reasons. One, you just don't need to kind of dedicate that much time to it, right? It's only about 5 minutes. You feel better. You feel good. And also, what did we just do? We didn't really do anything. We just kind of sat here and we're just breathing, right? We didn't need some sort of relaxation device or, I don't know, perfect conditions or anything like that. So this is empowering, right? You can really start to feel capable of doing this by starting small. Great. Awesome. Yeah, a lot of Gales in the chat. Cool. All right. So we're going to talk about anxiety, but if you have any other questions on meditation in general, breathing meditation, or whatever, feel free to ask me. So anxiety is something that a lot of people seek out meditation for. Not everyone identifies as being or having anxiety, but everyone gets anxious. Right? Everyone gets anxious. It affects people differently, for sure. It affects me very potently. It might not affect you that potently, but everyone gets anxious. Right? So even if you don't really identify as someone who has anxiety, I think you might find that this is going to be really helpful for you. Right? So one of the first questions that I think is kind of cool to think about is, where is your mind when you're anxious? Right? Oh, Selena, your anxiety comes on pretty quick. We're going to talk about that. That's a really good, insightful thing. Hold on to that just for a second, right? Gail, nailed it. Future, right? So now, when we're anxious, there's a temptation to say now, right? I'm anxious now. But the thing that is making us anxious almost always is in the future, right? When will this feeling go away? Future. I have to go to this event. Oh, what if I embarrass myself? Future, right? Hasn't happened yet, right? Even if something, like something happened in the past, right? And then we're thinking about it, we're scared about it happening again, right? We're kind of reliving it. Future, right? This is really important because when we're talking about training our mind with meditation, or really understanding your own mind, your mind can only be in one of three places. And it can only be in one of those three places at any given time. Past, present, or future, right? That's pretty much it. So when we're anxious, we're kind of trapped in the future, right? Now, sometimes we talk about this, people are like, all right, cool, I just won't think about the future. No, you have to think about the future. Thinking about the future is really good, right? We can plan, we strategize. Maybe you're going on vacation. You better think about what you need to bring. That's important. But anxiety traps you in the future. And so what we want is choice. I remember we were talking a little bit about meditation, giving you choice over your thoughts. So this is really where we're starting using meditation to help with anxiety. We want to be able to choose. Well, first, and we'll talk about this, we're going to notice, hey, I'm feeling anxious. Do I want to be thinking about this? All right, it's an interesting question, right? Sometimes we don't feel like we have a choice. So we're going to start to train in having a choice. We're going to train our mind in having a choice. And then, maybe you're like, yeah, I got this project coming up and I want to think about it. All right, cool. That's fine. The kind of crippling anxiety is when we don't want to be there. We don't want to be in the future, right? We want to be in the present. Cool. So one of our main goals is figuring out ways we can kind of untrap our mind from the future. So far, so good? Cool. Now, before we can kind of do anything about anxious thoughts or, however anxiety is manifesting in you, there is a very important step. And I mentioned it in the beginning of the meditation when I referred to mindfulness, right? But this step is all about recognition, recognizing when you're getting anxious, specifically early on in the process. Now, hold on, let me just back up here. Selena said, my anxiety comes on pretty quick, right? So this is a really interesting thing about emotions, right? It feels instantaneous, right? We're totally fine. Boom. I'm anxious. I was thinking about that thing and I'm anxious, right? It happens so fast, right? But there are in-between moments in there. It's just so quick that we often don't notice it, right? So we have to start to practice noticing these in-between moments so we can catch our anxiety earlier, and I'll talk about why in a second. Gail, sorry if you already mentioned this, Keith, but how long does an average meditation go for me? It varies. For me personally, I've been meditating a long time, and I generally sit in the kind of 20-minute range, 30-minute range. Some people go much longer than that. What I'll say to you is this does not matter. Time, the amount of time you are meditating in a session does not matter at all. And when you are just getting started, I really recommend you do not go over 5 minutes. You need to take some time and think about, what can I commit to consistently? If that's 30 seconds in the morning, boom, go with that. Doesn't matter. Consistency is the most important thing for seeing improvements. That's how we become familiar with something. Repetition. We do it over and over again consistently, right? Cool. Great question. Okay, so we want to start to notice our anxiety earlier on. Why, right? I like to kind of compare anxiety to a fire. Think about like a forest fire or something, right? Now that fire starts small, right? Just a little flame. This is my flame, right? Now, if I don't know why you would be in the forest there, but holding a giant jug of water, but maybe you are, right? And you're like, hey, there's a little flame there. I'll just pour this water on that. And that's the end of it, right? Pretty easy to manage that little flame. What happens if you do not notice the flame? It spreads, right? It becomes harder to manage. It's still manageable. You can see that with these incredible firefighters, fighting these fires in the forest, but it's harder to manage, right? The same is true with your thoughts, right? The longer we kind of let them fester, the more that fire spreads and it becomes more difficult to manage. Carmelina, I have to go, Keith. Enjoyed your lovely talk. It's all true. Shine bright. Thank you so much. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. So it starts to spread, right? And this is kind of going back to Selena's comment about comes on quick. What's happening is we're okay, and then it's a fire. It's a full-on fire, right? And we can sometimes feel incapable of managing that. So it's super important to start to practice noticing these feelings and thoughts earlier on. We need to monitor our mind, right? We don't do that. We just kind of go through our day and our mind does whatever the heck it wants, and we're anxious. We're like, I'm anxious, right? Oh, I'm upset. We're not like paying attention to the kind of minutia of what our mind is doing. This is mindfulness. If you probably heard that word a lot. It's a pretty common word. A lot of people use it for a lot of different things. Mindfulness is a purposeful, active awareness of your thoughts, moment to moment, for a purpose. And that purpose is being able to respond skillfully to what your mind's up to, right? So this is a big part of dealing with anxiety. And in terms of how you practice mindfulness, right? Good news is when you're doing a meditation, you are practicing mindfulness, right? Remember when we were noticing when our attention drifts? My attention drifted, bring it back. Cool, you noticed. That's good. Active awareness of what your mind is doing and then intentionally directing it where you want it to be, right? So meditating is a great way to practice mindfulness, but you're not meditating all the time, I know. So there's other things you can do. And the thing I always recommend is set an alarm on your phone. Just do one. You don't have to have 8 alarms going off all day. One alarm, whatever time you think is good for you. When that thing goes off, that's your just mindfulness check-in. You're going to do a check-in. How am I feeling? You're not doing anything about it. You're just practicing taking inventory of your thoughts. And at first, it's going to feel really forced because we never do this. But over time, it'll become easier, and then you won't need the alarm. You'll just be used to checking in, seeing how you're feeling. Cool? Okay. So that's a really good first step. If you're dealing with anxiety, practicing these mindfulness techniques are really great. Another thing that I wanted to bring up with regards to anxiety is kind of our approach of how to deal with it, right? So in the kind of spectrum of I'm okay to I'm really anxious, there's a lot going on in between, right? Let's think about it. Let's think about what happens when we're anxious. The first thing is we come into contact with something, right? We have to come into contact with something to be anxious. Now, that could be a thought. That could be a person. That can be an idea. That could be a memory. It doesn't have to be like an object. It can, but it can be anything, right? We come into contact with something. Now, this is a really interesting thing because this is where we try to stop anxiety, isn't it? Let's say you come into contact, like social anxiety. You come into contact with a thought about a party you have to go to or an event you have to go to, and you're like, "Oh man, what if I make a fool of myself? Oh, I always embarrass myself. I'm not going to go." Right? Sever contact. That's what we try to do, right? And it's a bit deceptive because it seems to work, right? There's a temporary relief with that. All right, we're like, I don't have to go to the event, but there's always another event, and so if you keep doing this, what can happen is you're not going to be doing anything cool out there, right? So it's deceptive to try to attack anxiety at this like contact stage, right? So we want to kind of get away from doing that, right? You cannot avoid coming into contact with things. It happens. It's part of being around, right? So what about what comes next? Come to contact with something, and then we start to label it. Oh, that's not good. Right? Oh, I don't like that. Oh, that's gonna be bad, right? Start to label these things, right? And this is a hard stage to kind of pick up on because it's so fast, right? But then what happens after we label? We exaggerate, right? Oh, this is going to be bad. Then we start to ruminate. We go down the rabbit hole, all the what ifs. I call this like the what if section of getting anxious. What if I say something dumb? Like you have a project at work, you're presenting something. What if I say the wrong thing? And then, sometimes you really start to go down the path like, oh, then I won't get the promotion. And then, I'm not going to be able to pay my bills, right? We start to really go down into the future. Our mind is gone. It's in the future. So this stage, exaggeration, is where I recommend you try to like keep an eye out for this, because we can recognize when we do it. If we try a little bit, we can recognize when we do this, right? When we go down the rabbit hole, all the what ifs, right? So this is a really good section to work on. So when you're doing your mindfulness check-ins, right? Maybe you're, it's like, hey, I've been a little anxious today, right? You can think about, am I in the exaggeration stage? Like, have I been exaggerating anything a little bit? This is a really good section to work on. Cool. Daphne, I have insomnia. I'm sorry to hear that. I have the opposite problem. I have like narcolepsy. And I begin to become anxious towards the evening. Oh, great example. So Daphne, this is something that is like a chronic condition that you're dealing with, right? Now, the anxiety, where is it? Where is your mind when you're getting anxious? It's not, oh, I have insomnia. It's, what if I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight, right? It's in the future. Right? That's a really good thing to kind of keep investigating, right? Because what we want to really do is we want to get our mind out of the future, right? We want to be like, come on back, right? And I teach this anxiety class in like 2 parts because it's very involved, and I like to spend a lot of time with it. And I think next week we're going to talk about specifics, like, okay, now I notice I'm getting anxious. Great, what do I do? But really great observation, right? The anxiety can almost be worse than the insomnia, right? The fear of it happening or coming back or whatever, Okay, so we need to first practice noticing when we're getting anxious early on in the process, and we're going to keep an eye out for if we're doing any of that exaggeration stuff. All right. And what is going to happen here is we're targeting the rumination phase of anxiety, and we're catching the fire earlier on in the process, right? And our goal right now is not to be never anxious, right? Look, I want that too, right? That sounds great. But we got to take steps, small steps. And our first step is to start to like widen the band of time that we think happens from being okay to being not okay. Right? This exaggeration phase is really important to look out for. If you can catch anxiety here, you can manage it pretty well in my experience. Cool? Okay. So this was a kind of part 1 of anxiety, and then next week what we're going to talk about is okay, I'm starting to notice when I'm anxious earlier on. Good. Right? I'm catching myself in the exaggeration phase. Now what? What do I do? Right? What do I do to help this? Right? So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and a little preview. There's 2 main things we're going to look at: acceptance and space. All right, a little teaser for next time. All right. So I want to do a quick meditation, and what I want to do is something called a counting meditation. It is very similar to breathing meditation, and you may notice that this is very, very similar to breathing meditation because all meditation follows the exact same structure, right? We choose to focus on one thing. Whenever we notice we're not focusing on that one thing, we're bringing our attention back, right? So we did that with our breath. Now we're going to do a counting meditation, which we're going to count our breaths. Why? This is really good for anxiety. Sometimes when we're really anxious, the idea of just kind of, hey, whimsically, I'll just focus on my breath. Like our mind is like, no. Right? So we're going to give our mind a job. We got to give our mind a job. Our mind likes tasks. We're going to give it a job. And its job is going to be to count our breaths. So we're just going to breathe in and out. And then in our head, we're just going to say 1, in and out, 2. So we're focusing single-pointedly on counting our breaths. And then whenever you notice that you either lose count or you're like, oh, what number was I at? Like whenever that happens, just, all right, I'll start over. You just start back at 1. It's the same concept as using your breath as the object of meditation. We're just kind of expanding upon that. And this is really good for anxiety, right? Let's do it. Selena, I'm glad. The next class, anyone who is here, I highly recommend you come next week. It's these like mindfulness, kind of catching anxiety early, and then what do we do with that? They really go hand in hand. It's just I don't want to take up too much of your time, so I recommend you come back. Cool. All right, we're going to do a little counting meditation. It's going to be pretty similar, about the same amount of time. So you can just go and get comfy. Go ahead and close your eyes, and I'm going to guide us through this counting meditation. Okay. Let's just briefly check in again. How are you feeling now? We're not comparing it to before. Before is gone. How are you feeling now? Just noticing. We're not doing anything about it. We're just practicing mindfulness. Our little mental alarm that lets us know when our mind is drifting off into thought, or when our emotions are starting to kick in. Having checked in, you can now, once again, turn your attention to your breath, breathing in and out very gently and very naturally. Only this time, we're going to count our breaths. So I'd like you to breathe in and out, and then say to yourself 1. In and out 2. And if you ever lose count, just start over at 1. That's it. Gentle, natural, smooth breathing. Allow yourself to relax into your chair or cushion. And then we can just practice our mindfulness by checking in. If you lose track of what number you're on or your mind has drifted in thought, no big deal. Just gently guide your focus back to breathing in and out. 1. In and out. 2. And just check in again. Bring your attention back to breathing, back to counting each breath. Doesn't matter how many times you need to start over. The goal is not to count to a high number, just to focus single-pointedly on counting each breath in and out. 1. In and out. 2. As you start to really plug in to your breath, start to be fully in the present moment with your breath, you may start to notice some interesting things about breathing. Things that maybe you hadn't really thought about before. Maybe you're noticing how the air feels cool temperature-wise when you breathe in. And that same air feels a bit warmer when you breathe out. Interesting. Or maybe you're noticing your body moving with each breath. Your shoulders rising, falling. Your chest expanding, contracting. Every aspect of you, body and mind, breathing together, in and out. When you are single-pointedly focused on an activity, fully present with an activity, you start to notice some things about that activity, some subtleties. some subtle joys. Right now, you are finding some subtle joy in breathing. How wonderful that you are able to truly enjoy something as simple and accessible as breathing in and out, gently and naturally. So just for the next couple of moments, just enjoy being here. That's it. Okay, when you're ready, you can relax your concentration. Open your eyes, return to me, return to YouTube. Cool. So similar to what we did first in our first meditation, all we're doing is changing the object of our meditation. You can meditate on anything. You can meditate on walking. You can meditate on brushing your teeth. You can meditate on, I don't know, tapping your hands on the desk. It doesn't matter. As long as you're choosing to focus on something single-pointedly, noticing when your attention is drifting, bringing it back, that's the technique of meditation. The technique of training your mind to focus on what you want to focus on. Cool? Okay. Great class. I know it's a lot of information. This is your first time, probably like, whoa, that's a lot. Hopefully it wasn't too much. If you enjoyed your time here, I'd be very glad to hear that. Come on back. Usually we do a different topic each week, but anxiety, I generally always do 2 classes because it's such a kind of sought after topic. So next week we're going to continue, and we're going to talk about what to do now that you've started to notice a little earlier on in the process that you're getting anxious, right? Thank you guys. That's really kind of you. I'm glad you had a good experience. And if you did have a good experience, I recommend you can like this video. That's helpful to me. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel. That'd be cool. It helps me out a lot, and you get reminders of when I'm going live with a meditation. You have access to all my old videos. Maybe you're like, hey, somebody said they have insomnia. I did a class on sleep issues, right? So you're like, oh, I'll go check that out. So if you feel comfortable subscribing, be awesome. Make me really happy. And then if you are like, hey, this is really cool, I'm into meditation, I'd like to kind of see where I can go with this. I teach private one-on-one classes. They are all virtual, unless you live in the Denver area, I guess. But I do them over Zoom. It's super casual. It's very laid back. I'm a very laid back guy. We're going to have some fun learning meditation together. So if that's something that's interesting to you, just email me and we'll figure out a time that would work. All right? So I'm going to put my email in the chat right now. It is keith@meditationbreaks.com. I'm typing it. Cool. That's my email. Email me if you want to do a one-on-one. Email me if you have a question about anything I didn't cover or something that comes up as you're doing this on your own. Right? Feel free to email me. Thanks, Pat. Thanks, Selena, Gail. Thank you, guys. I really do appreciate you being here. I love teaching, and I couldn't do it without you. And I know everyone has a very busy schedule. And I think it's really cool that you take time out of your busy schedule to learn something new with me. So thank you for being here. I hope you had a good experience, and enjoy your nice, relaxed self. I'll see you guys next week.